I had a client once who called me. He had hired two hookers to, let's use your imagination. Hired two hookers. He was actually married, and he got a hotel room and just wanted to have fun for the night. So the two hookers came in and they did their deed and so forth. And of course, before they left, they stole everything of his. Hi, my name is Marcella Cava. I am a private investigator. I own and operate my own firm, and I am just going to share a few stories of cases that I have worked over the last few years. Obviously, I'm going to keep some of the names and details hidden because everybody deserves their confidentiality, and that's what I always agree to. So I'm going to share some of the more exciting stories, and hopefully you find them entertaining. So there's one DUI that comes to mind. There was a Lambo that the driver was intoxicated and actually drove into somebody's house and injured several people inside the home because he was sleeping. The driver of this car and the passenger of the car both were gone on arrival once the cops were called. So the cops clearly looked everywhere that they could to try and identify, hey, who's this driver and blah, blah, blah. It was a rental car. So they had nothing to go on, what to trace it back to. They were waiting to get back in touch with the rental car company and so forth. The family was able to contact me directly, and I was up in the middle of the night, and I was able to retrace the steps by going to several businesses within the community, and I was able to see these guys covered in blood. I mean, their clothes were ripped. They're running down the street, but running down the street either intoxicated or maybe they had a head injury. I mean, they're in and out of the roadway and so forth, falling in the grass. And it was just funny being able to gather this video from one business. And then I would go 3 blocks away because they had a camera, and I would get it from a whole nother angle. And, I thought, okay, where are these guys? Where are they coming from? What is open at this time of the night? And I was able to track it back to a strip club. I happen to know the owner of the strip club, and I will leave that name out of it, but they were very kind enough to accidentally leave me the video footage of them at the strip joint and so forth. So I was able to not only get them inside the strip club, see all the dances and how many hours they had spent there and so forth. So I was able to help this family out by identifying who the drivers were, who the passenger was, and get all the evidence of what had preceded them crashing into the house. And I think it was just funny to see, unfortunately, the Lambo. What a beautiful car. Just inside of a house, you can't take that vision out of your head. I had this New York guy call me, and he's like, look, I went to the cops. They won't help me. They just think, I'm this douchebag from New York with a ton of money. And I'm telling them I was drugged, my watch, my wallet, everything was stolen from me. And he's like, I can't remember anything other than I was talking to a good-looking girl. And he's like, and the cops really won't take me seriously. He was very entertaining to listen to. And he was just very, very factual on, look, this happened to me. I would tell you I've done plenty of drugs in my life. I would tell you if I did drugs, but I did not do drugs. And he's like, I can handle my liquor. So, okay, I go back to the nightclub, and the owner said, oh, conveniently, the footage, wasn't working that night, right? Okay. But he had been at one bar prior to that. So we were able to get the footage from that. And I was able to see that indeed he was talking to this beautiful, look like Latina, beautiful woman and so forth. And he was buying her drinks. I could see the watch that he was wearing. So everything was adding up that he had told me. He ended up going to get drug tested the following day, and he did in fact have drugs in his system. We weren't able to identify who this woman was. So we went back the following week on the same night to both bars. And I used one of my really good looking male counterparts, and I made sure he had a great Breitling on. He was wearing his amazing expensive Louis shoes and so forth. I stayed away, right? I made sure he was alone. And the same female took the bait, came in. I mean, she was amazing. She was beautiful. And, doing the whole thing on the arms. It was the same exact ploy. Sure enough, he goes to the bathroom. He excuses himself. He leaves his drink on the table. And as I'm watching from a little ways away, she just dropped something right in the drink. So we were able to call the cops, and they were able to trace it back to, identify that this woman was the same woman that my client was talking to at the bar. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get the video footage of him being drugged because, that bar didn't have it. But it was circumstantial evidence, and I think it was more for him the fact that he wasn't believed. I had a client once who called me. He had hired 2 hookers to, let's use your imagination, hired 2 hookers. He was actually married, and he got a hotel room and just wanted to have fun for the night. So the 2 hookers came in, and they did their deed and so forth. And of course, before they left, they stole everything of his. Well, he was in a pinch and didn't know what to do because he's married. But yet he got his license and his wallet and everything stolen. And I mean, there's only so many lies you can keep up with your wife. So he called me first before calling the cops. And he's like, what do I do? I'm like, well, look, I used to be a cop. If you make a report, your name's going to be on this report forever. Now, that's your prerogative if that's what you want to do. Or you can cut your losses. Let me know what phone number perhaps you contacted these women on. I can use my programs and I can try to identify who they are. I thought that they were going to be using like a throwaway phone or something of that sort. But believe it or not, I was able to figure out who the woman was. The phone number came back to the hooker's mother. Okay, so this was actually the best case scenario because the hooker didn't want the mother to know that she was making a living by selling her body. So I was able to knock on the door, speak to the mother, and the mother was, what are you talking about? No. Well, she called the daughter because there was a little bit of a language barrier, and the daughter very clearly understood me and said, look, I'll give you back everything. I don't have the cash anymore, but I'll give you back everything if you just tell my mom that you were at the wrong house. So we did. We met about 30 minutes later at a gas station. She gave me back his wallet, his license. She, of course, didn't have the cash. My client had a plethora of cash. She didn't care about that. It was all of the other stuff. I think it was his ring too, right? Which had sentimental value. How do you explain that to your wife? So we got all that back, and he never had to make a police report. So I think to this day, his wife never knows, and good for him. I mean, she shouldn't know. If you like these stories, there's many more, but we all have had things happen to us. I don't want you to hesitate on calling 911, calling a lawyer, or calling a PI, whether it's myself or somebody else. It's best to advocate for yourself. Don't always feel like you have to rely on one person. Rely on multiple people if you can. It's great to have more than one person out there collecting evidence for you. The more, the better. And if you can do that, I highly recommend it. And don't be embarrassed. Listen, there's nothing that you can tell me that I haven't heard or seen. So there's absolutely nothing to be embarrassed about. And it's completely confidential. And any of these stories that I put out there, the things are being changed, so nobody will ever know who it is.